This tutorial I'm going to talk about compressing a QuickTime movie or an H.264 file from Premiere, Adobe Premiere. And of course, going through the compression settings and how to deal with these formats and the compressions, they should pretty much transfer to whatever you might be compressing out of, okay, or making a video out of. So here is a sequence that I have up in Premiere, and if I'm ready to make this a QuickTime movie with H.264 compression, I can go up here to File and Export and Media. Well, I gotta make sure the timeline selected. Export Media, and this is where we are going to have our options here to compress out of, right? Now, with Premiere, we have our source information right here, which is 1920 by 1080, 0.1 pixel aspect ratio, or 1.0 pixel aspect ratio rather, 23.976 frames per second, progressive. Okay, and this is in stereo, 48 hertz sample rate. So this is right here our settings, that if we want to make it the same, we need to make our output settings the same. And as you can see, our output settings are not the same up here. Also, we have an output and a source window here. Source is what it would look like, and output's what we are going to output to. As you can see, there are black bars here, and we don't really want that. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is change the format, right? Where we are going to be doing a QuickTime movie. So we can do QuickTime, which is great. And then the video codec, which is down here, might be closed open, or it might be closed, or it might be open. We're going to change the video codec down here to H.264. Right? So we have an H.264 file with a QuickTime wrapper. Okay? And then we go in here and we have to do the settings that we need to change. So that would be, we can take this off, and width right here would be 1920, as we can see right here, right? So 1920 by what? As you can see, it's 1080. Okay, so we are matching. We still have some bars, but that's okay, we'll take care of that. So we're at 23.976 frames per second. Those match up. Next is aspect ratio, right? We have a 0.1 aspect ratio here, right? This is at 0.9. So if we change this to 0.1 square pixels, we should have a nice solid photo of what's going on, or at least representation of what's going on. Okay, so we have this going on, and that's wonderful. We do not have to deal with any of these advanced settings at this point. Okay, we are ready to do this. As far as audio is uncompressed, we are all right. So we have our quality here, which is 1920 by 1080, 23.976 frames per second. Quality is at 100. H.264 is the compression type, and that matches. So what we need to do is output, and we have output name, where we can click on this, and then we can actually tell us where we want to save this at. Okay, once we have that set up, all we have to do is hit export, and it will render out. It'll take this is a little over 2 minutes. It would take a few minutes to render out. Okay, so that's one way to do it. That would be the QuickTime with H.264 compression. Now the other way we could do this is if we make the format H.264, right? Which we have an option. We want to do H.264, not H.264 Blu-ray. Now this one can be a little complicated. However, we have a bunch of presets here in the Premiere export settings that we could use, right? And even if you don't, I'll show you how to deal with it, right? So when we do H.264, we have all kinds of presets that we can pull open. As you can see, we have all kinds of stuff that we can go to here, right? Now my recommendation, if you are going to make this a YouTube video, right, or if indeed you're going to turn this in to us on a disc or something, to use the exact same formats, which would be the YouTube HD 1080p 23.976 preset. So I'm going to do that, and I have that. And as you can see here, we have, once again, our source is 1920 by 1080, right? Same source. So we look at our output, 1920 by 1080, 23.97, progressive, this is great, right? So we're set up. Now, what this stuff is saying is this is giving us the data rate, which is right here, or bitrate settings, also known as, right? Megabytes per second. If you were setting this up without the preset, what you would have to do is make sure it's the right width, make sure you have the right frames per second, make sure you have progressive, make sure that you have the pixel aspect ratio correct, make sure it's NTSC, and then the real change would be the bit depth settings, right? These things go extremely high, as you can see, right? But actually what you need is somewhere between 8 and 10 would be a good goal to have. This preset is at 8, and I think 8 will make a pretty good looking video for our standards, right? Now you would think that the more, bit rate that you have, the higher bit rate, the better quality you would have. Yes and no. You have higher quality, but then you're going to have problems playing the video. So this will give us a pretty good looking video with something that's the right size that we can actually play. As you can see, the file size is down here, pretty small, 141 megabytes. Now, we have this advanced keyframe distance, right? This should be automatic if you have the preset. If not, you shouldn't take it under more than 24, right? This one's set at 72, which is a little high, but that's all right. Basically what a keyframe is that it's going to bring in a full frame with all the information in it every X amount of times, right? And this is every 72 times. It's going to bring in a keyframe with all information in it. And from that keyframe, we're going to get things like color and contrast, right? Or luminance and chroma information from those frames. And the compressor will then take that information and turn them into mathematical figures to fill out the rest of the frames in between. So they're not real frames, they're actually interpolated frames is what it would be, right? So it's the information from these keyframes would then be interpolated for the frames in between. Okay, so with that said, all you have to do is change this either to 24, somewhere between 24 and up. This is 72, and you'll get a pretty good quality. I wouldn't go much past 72. Okay, but if you have a preset like you have in here, it would be pretty easy to do just by going into the settings of the YouTube. Okay, great. And then of course, once again, you have to make sure it's going to the right destination and hit export. This kind of information, as far as compressing goes, would be the same pretty much with any type of compression you would be going out of, or compressor you'd be going out of from an NLE. So hopefully this works. If you have problems, please feel free to contact me at guberac@missouri.edu. Thank you.